Symptoms of water loss: 1 to 2% weight loss of bunch will have a negative effect on the berry firmness and the stem color. You want the stem to look fresh. You don't want it to be brown. 3 to 5% weight loss in the bunch can cause serious deterioration. Bunch discoloration, where you get browning, drying of the bunch stems, the rachis, loose berries, and loss of berry firmness. And soggy, squishy, flaccid berries don't feel as good on the mouth. This deterioration is permanent and will cause rejection of the fruit by the market, either your direct customer or the final consumer. So, you know, if you're selling it to Safeway, they will reject it. Or if they did buy it and they put it out on the shelves, their customers are going to go, I don't think so. So here you can see browning because of delays of cooling. Kind of a poor photo, but you can see what the color of a nice rachis should look like, or the bunch stem, and serious problems. 9-hour delay before cooling. And then once they did the 9-hour delay before cooling, they took all of these and they put it into a storage environment indicated here, because the browning doesn't happen instantly. It happens after the heat damage occurred. Then the browning is going to be accelerated in the subsequent days and subsequent storage. Pretty obvious dehydration here. That's pretty bad. Stem browning, ugly. This doesn't look nice at all. More stem browning. Those are ugly bunches. Although the grapes can still be good, it's the lifespan has been dramatically reduced. Those have to be consumed right away, and there's going to be a lot of berries that the customer is going to go past. This is not a good customer experience. Loose berries, the berries that are falling off because of a loss of water. So berries that fall off end up being pounds of berries that you're not selling. Browning, that's really ugly. That's a basket of garbage. Now, yeah, if that was my basket, I'd pick through there and grab a few grapes, but you know, you're not going to sell that. Good storage conditions. Any break in the cold chain can increase a risk of decay. And the biggest problem of decay is the fungus botrytis. You all know of that one. It's the noble rot in a little bit at the end of certain dessert wine grapes. It is the disaster rot in the table grape industry, and raisins as well. Surface and subsurface browning of berries can develop in sensitive cultivars. So grapes before harvest, deterioration after storage. Don't need to go into any detail there. It's pretty obvious what's going on. Botrytis decay, nobody wants to eat that. And this can happen in storage very quickly, especially if conditions aren't kept proper for storage with the proper temperature especially. Physical bruising, you can see something like this. That clearly was some sort of a physical damage caused in transportation. Sunburn has a very distinct look. It kind of has a speckled look to it when you look closely. I don't know if you can see it on this video, but there's a freckly kind of appearance to sunburning. Effects of water loss, I'm not going to go through the detail here, but essentially you can see the ideal storage conditions versus the poor storage conditions. You're having tremendous amount of water loss in these poor storage conditions. Actions to prevent deterioration. Well, before picking, the vineyard management that produced healthy grapes, reducing bird damage, good cluster formation, bee, wasp, or other insect damage, physical damage, phytosanitary control of diseases like powdery mildew and botrytis, all of these things to improve or prevent, improve your grape quality or prevent deterioration. Wasps and bees, they can do some serious damage in some cases. And along the top, we have bird damage. You can put netting over your grapes to prevent birds. And I think I've mentioned before in a previous lecture about my amazement at netting an entire vineyard, dozens and dozens of acres. The first time I saw it, I was like, wow, that's a lot of netting. But it's a high value crop. So here's some bird control options. Here's some netting and here's some bags. Again, it depends on the size of your operation and where you are in the world, what makes economic sense based on cost of materials and labor and other factors. We kind of have a view of the world that we're looking through a straw usually in the United States, and it's like the rest of the world doesn't exist unless we go there. But there are all kinds of different solutions because costs and labor availability and transportation availability, cooling situations, it's a different world in different parts of the world. And so I just want to mention that when you see something like bags, like who the hell would do that? Well, it might make sense in some situations. It obviously does make sense in some production operations. Sunburn, that's pretty bad sunburn. Physical blemishes, again, just some photos. Berry splitting and cracking with some sunspots. All of these would be problems for table grapes. A lot less of a problem in wine grapes if the damage is minor, but in table grapes you have much less tolerance for some of these damages. Now here is an extremely compacted bunch where you have serious problems. Look at the berries on the left, how compacted, how dense they are. And so they damage each other and they squish each other. And in transportation, there's just all kinds of problems versus a cluster that has a much looser cluster density. And the berries, you still have lots of berries, but they are going to be quality berries with much less damage throughout the process. Powdery mildew damage, it can do a lot of damage to your grapes. We've talked about powdery mildew. Mealybug infestation, we've talked about them. They can do damage. During picking, boxes for picking must be clean. Clean harvesting scissors for picking, clean hands, harvest during the cool part of the day, handle fruit carefully, pack only one layer of grapes in a box, don't stack them too deep, so using the right containers. Putting soft materials at the bottom of the box. There are different kind of cushiony pads that you can put in the harvest containers. Things that we don't bother with wine grapes because they're going to the crush pad right away. Table grapes have to go through an entire transportation process to the consumer, and they have to look beautiful and edible by the time they get to the grocery store, into the consumer's shopping basket, and to their home. Got to be much more careful. All of this stuff is fairly obvious if you think about it. Pick bunches of mostly similar maturity and berry size, so you want to pick the uniformity, and transport as quickly as possible to the working area, getting it cooled and transported. Different types of harvesting scissors. Don't need to worry about any of the specifics on the previous one, but here they're grabbing the cluster. What is that doing? Physical damage by clamping or grabbing the cluster. You want to cradle the cluster. Packing too deep. You're packing berries on top of berries. Now, if this is going into a wine press, that's okay, or a wine crusher, that's okay. But for fresh market, not a good idea. Dirty basket, not a good idea. Correct way is cradling the cluster, clean basket. There's padding on the bottom of the basket, single layer of fruit. You know, this is a much better operation. Uneven maturity versus even maturity. Clearly, you got an issue there. And by spraying the Ethrel, that's when you can, if you know what you're doing at the right time and there aren't other factors that get in the way, a well-timed Ethrel spray can get you more even maturity. Transportation. Actions to prevent deterioration. During handling of clusters and pack houses, you want to work hygienically with clean hands, clean working area, clean equipment. You want to trim bad parts of the cluster, taking out rot, bird damage, physical damage. If you are hand trimming the clusters, then you would do this. Careful handling of the cluster. Again, you can read through this on your own, but a lot of this is fairly obvious kinds of suggestions. And again, depending on the part of the world you're in, there are more or less issues with them. Here you can see some trimming of these clusters in the work area. During packing in the fruit in boxes for export, packing only one layer of bunches, no stacking. Hygienic area, always clean your hands, et cetera, the same kinds of stuff. And so there's different kinds of packing, bags and wraps and bulk packs, and you know there's a lot of different things. These sulfur dioxide pads can help in storage and transportation. They are an antioxidant material that helps with some oxidative deterioration, preventing of oxidative deterioration, just like the SO2 that is used in wines. It can be used with these pads that will absorb excess oxygen that would otherwise turn things brown. Paper bags, plastic bags, clamshells, loose berries, sponge packs. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. And in different markets, lots of ways to have a presentation of your final table grape product for the consumer, the one who's going to take it home and eat it. Larger packs, again, not to worry about that. Field packing, you can stop and look at these bagged. You can take a look at those on your own leisure, pausing the video if you'd like. Otherwise, that is it for table grapes.